88-year-old Russell Dermond's decapitated body was found in his garage on May 6, 2014. His 87-year-old wife Shirley was found bludgeoned to death in Lake Oconee 10 days later, weighted down with 30 pounds of cinder blocks. To this day, Russell's head has still not been found. The couple were retirees living in an affluent gated community in Putnam County, Georgia, and did not have any debts or enemies. They had owned a chain of Hardee's restaurants in Atlanta and had been retired for a couple of decades. Police found no evidence of ransacking. The couple's Rolex watches, phones, jewelry, and wallets were still in the house, suggesting that money was not a motive for their murder. Who would want to kill two elderly, frail people? And who would kill them in such a violent, heinous manner? Russell and Shirley Dermond were married in 1950 and had 4 children. There were 3 boys, Mark, Bradley, and Keith, and 1 girl, Leslie. They also had 9 grandchildren. Russell was a World War II Navy veteran, and in the 1950s he settled down with Shirley, working for General Time Corp as an executive. Shirley was a housewife and enjoyed solving crossword puzzles, gardening, and playing bridge. In the late 1980s, Russell purchased a chain of Hardee's restaurants and then sold them in the late 1990s. His sons, Bradley and Keith, were part of their father's business, owning Dermond Food Services, which was voluntarily dissolved in 2001. Keith and Bradley then started another business called Ramsey Developments, owning several Wendy's restaurants in Florida. Bradley also works as a real estate agent for Sotheby's. The Dermonds lived a relatively quiet, mundane life. However, tragedy struck in 2000 when the Dermonds' oldest son, Mark, was killed by a drug dealer while trying to purchase cocaine. The couple lived in a beautiful lakefront property in Reynolds Great Waters Estate in Eatonton, Georgia. They had some friends within the community, and Russell would regularly play golf with his neighbors. The couple were living the retiree's dream until May 6, 2014. Russell transfers money at the Lake Oconee People's Bank for an insurance expense. He then shops at Publix for a few groceries. In the afternoon, Russell spoke with his son Brad on the phone. The Dermonds had accepted an invitation to attend a Kentucky Derby party at their neighbor's house, but they did not show up. At around 9:58 a.m., Peggy and Hewell Wynn became concerned about the Dermonds' welfare, as the Dermonds had not shown up to the party on Saturday. They had attempted to call the couple several times on Sunday and Monday, but there was no answer. They went over to the Dermonds to check that they were okay. The front door was unlocked and the alarm was disarmed, but nothing was out of place. The house was spotless except for the unmade bed in the Dermonds' bedroom. The couple discover Russell's decapitated body in the garage and call 911.
Yes, I have an emergency.
Okay.
I think I have somebody dead.
Okay, what's the address, ma'am?
Hewell, what's the address here?
I don't know.
We're in Great Waters.
Is it 147 Carolyn Drive?
Yes, 147 Carolyn Drive.
Okay, and who is it?
The Dermonds.
Okay, and you're a neighbor or something?
Yes, I just came to check on them. They've been missing for about 4 days.
Are they in the house?
Yes.
And what's your name, ma'am?
I'm Peggy Wynn.
Police arrive at the Dermonds' house just after 10 a.m. and commence the investigation into Russell's death. He is dressed in his pajamas, suggesting he was attacked earlier on in the morning. At this point, Shirley is missing, and they don't know that she is deceased. Gunpowder residue is found on Russell's shirt, suggesting he may have been shot in the head and that the perpetrators removed his head to discard ballistic evidence. Police investigate Shirley's disappearance, putting up billboards around the area. Police dredged the lake in the area behind the Dermonds' property in an attempt to find Shirley and find nothing. Initially, it was thought that Shirley had been kidnapped. The search continued. An autopsy was conducted on Russell's body, with the cause of death determined to be craniocerebral trauma resulting from homicide. Fishermen Dennis Higgs and Ronald Serrao discover Shirley's bloated body floating in Lake Oconee. Dennis Higgs calls 911. Shirley's body had two 30-pound red cinder blocks tied around both ankles with a parachute cord. DNA evidence from Russell's shirt taken in 2014 was sent to Utah and Texas labs to be tested with new technology. Cell phone data from that period is also being acquired and analyzed with the hope of finding the perpetrators.
The most promising lead in nearly a decade, DNA found on Russell's shirt. A private lab confirms does not belong to the Dermonds.
It appears that Shirley was attacked first because she was fully dressed and she usually woke up before Russell. She would complete a crossword puzzle in the morning as per her routine. However, she was interrupted and never completed the puzzle. There may have been a knock on the door and then a commotion in which Russell awoke and went to check on his wife, who was then attacked by the perpetrators. Russell had a piece of Shirley's hair in his hand, suggesting he may have been trying to protect her while the perpetrators took her away. Putnam County engaged the services of several law enforcement agencies, including the FBI, and interviewed around 250 people. Phone records and financial records were searched, and the couple's 3 children were interviewed and given polygraph tests. All 3 children were confirmed to have been out of state at the time of their parents' murder. It is unclear how close the children were to their parents. They would visit from time to time, and Brad would talk to his father most days. There is a record of Brad talking with his father on Thursday, May 1st. Despite this fact, Brad did not become aware of his father's murder until May 6th. The murders appeared to be premeditated, with the killers bringing several items with them. There was a sharp weapon used to behead Russell, cinder blocks, a blue sack, and a parachute cord used to sink Shirley. Police believe Shirley was struck in the head twice by a hammer or a similar object that was not found. They are unsure whether Russell was shot or whether he was struck in the head in a similar manner to Shirley. Given the fact that there was gunshot residue on Russell's shirt collar, they think that he was shot in the head and the perpetrators removed his head to hide ballistic evidence. The Dermonds lived in a gated community with a guardhouse, in which a security guard recorded the names and number plates of visitors to the community. It is likely that the perpetrators either lived in the area or used a boat as a means of transport to get to the Dermonds' house undetected. The Dermonds did not own a boat, therefore the perpetrators would likely have brought their own. Lake Oconee is a huge public lake with multiple entry points, therefore anyone could have entered and docked at the Dermonds' property. There was no security footage of the area at the time, as the cameras had not been functioning for about a month due to a storm and no one had bothered repairing them. However, considering the fact that there had not been a home invasion in the area for 18 years, it is likely the residents were not too concerned. There were reports of neighbors having seen an unidentified man walking around the Dermonds' property on the day they were killed, but police were unable to verify these sightings. Maintenance staff were interviewed and polygraphed, leaving police at a loss. The residence had not been ransacked and there was nothing that appeared to be missing. Shirley's purse, cash and jewelry were still in the house and the cars were still in the driveway. This suggests that robbery was not the primary motive for the murders. The sheriff suspected the couple may have been killed elsewhere and then brought back to their home due to the lack of blood splatter in the garage from Russell's murder. However, there were towels next to Russell's body to prevent blood from seeping through the garage door, suggesting that the killers may have meticulously cleaned the crime scene before departing. They appeared to have quite a bit of time on their hands, given the fact that they were able to remove Russell's head and dump Shirley's body. These murders were personal and planned. The Dermonds lived in a gated community in which many houses were vacation homes that were empty for most of the year. It is possible that the perpetrators meant to rob a neighbor and accidentally entered the Dermonds' house thinking it was empty. They were then confronted by the couple and killed them to remove them as witnesses. This theory does not make much sense, given the nature of how the Dermonds were killed and the fact that there was still cash and many expensive items in the house that the thieves could have taken. There was also the fact that there were 2 cars in the driveway, indicating people were home. Whoever killed the Dermonds took their time and were not afraid of being caught. It was thought that the children may have been involved in their parents' death so they could receive an early inheritance. However, this does not make much sense. The Dermonds were in their late 80s and did not have a long life ahead of them. The lead investigator, Sheriff Sills, claims that the amount inherited by the children was not a large sum. It is suggested that the Dermonds had a net worth of around $1.5 million. All 3 children appear to be financially independent and successful. There was an attempt to hide Shirley's body with cinder blocks, with her body not having been discovered until 10 days after Russell's. If someone was in a hurry to collect their inheritance, why delay the process by hiding Shirley's body? Both bodies would have to be identified and death certificates issued to instigate the probate process. This is one of the most popular theories given how the bodies were found. It is thought that the Dermonds possessed something of great value that wasn't in the house, and that the perpetrators attempted to blackmail them to obtain it. The fact that Shirley's body was found in the river indicates that she may have been taken out there alive to force Russell to give up the information they were after. The problem with this theory is that there is no evidence of the Dermonds having anything of excessive value that would warrant this level of extortion. There were people who lived in the area who were far wealthier than the Dermonds, therefore it does not make sense that they were a target for this sort of operation. Many people have speculated that there may be a mafia connection with the Dermonds because they used to live in New Jersey. However, they had not lived there for decades. Even if the Dermonds were involved with such characters, it is highly unlikely the mafia would wait decades to collect a debt. During the investigation, the police looked into the Dermonds' financial records and did not find anything unusual. What wasn't clear, however, is whether they looked into the financial records of their children. The Dermond sons, Brad and Keith, live in Jacksonville, Florida, which is an area that has been growing in drug trafficking for the past couple of decades. According to the United States Department of Justice, traffickers are setting their sights on multi-layered real estate transactions. It is possible that Keith may have gotten caught up in a money laundering scheme working as a real estate agent, or that both sons may have been the victim of intimidation tactics from Mexican gangs as a consequence of being the owners of food outlets. Mexican cartels are notorious for their brutality. They have no problem killing the relatives of the people they have issues with. Could the Mexican cartel have used the Dermonds' murder as an intimidation tactic to extort funds from the Dermond sons? Did the police check the financial records of the Dermond children? What time was the alarm in the house disarmed? Why hadn't Brad attempted to call his father for 5 days when he apparently spoke to him regularly, almost on a daily basis? Leslie has stayed away from the media throughout the investigation. She is reported to have been going through a divorce at the time. Are there things in Leslie's past or dealings with her ex-husband that may have led to her parents' death? This is still an active case, with police having recently discovered that the DNA on Russell's shirt does not belong to him or Shirley. If you have any information about this case, please contact the FBI Atlanta office on 770-216-3000 or the Putnam County Sheriff's Office at 706-485-8557. Hopefully, with the new technology available, investigators will be able to get to the truth of what happened to Russell and Shirley.